Eric Truxon, how you doing, man?
All right. How are you, Martin?
I'm good. We finally get a chance to get on the same page here. At least seems like our schedules are like two ships passing in the night.
That happens now and then.
Yeah, yeah. So, man, you're in the electrical world, huh?
Yes, yes, yes. Electrical contractor. I love it.
That's awesome. So, give the audience sort of a lineage on how you ended up where you are. I always want to get started with that because everybody's story, there's a lot of similarities, but then a lot of times there's some significant differences. And I want to know, what was your journey to get to today?
Okay. Well, my journey started probably when I was, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years old. And, the telephone got broken and the telephone repairman came in the house. And it was intriguing to me. And, every time you're walking through the neighborhood or driving through periodically, you look up in the sky and you see this big truck, this big white Pico, as they call it in the area I'm in, truck. And you see this guy climbing up on this pole. And I was like, boy, he looks great. I would love to do that. And as time went on, I went to school and things like that. And at the time that I was coming out of school, which was eons ago, everyone wanted, if you had a high math and science aptitude, they said you should be an engineer. So I went to school for electrical engineering. And I won't say I didn't like it, but I didn't like it. and the biggest thing I will say is it's just engineering is great. And, I'm somewhat good at it. I love math. I love science, but I love math probably a little more. But it's really abstract thinking. And I'm more of a hands-on person.
Right.
So I just kept thinking about that electrical contractor. So when I finished, I worked as in the engineering field for a small amount of time. And I just realized that I really didn't like it. But during the time I went and got my license as a contractor, really didn't know what I was doing yet. And I sat there and I tried to do different things part-time and all that. And I decided to do a full circle and go through an apprenticeship, which I would always suggest to anyone. They should, if they can, they should go through an apprenticeship because you get the whole gamut of what you're doing in construction. You get the book knowledge and you get the in-class knowledge. And when I've completed the apprenticeship and I had my license, I started working and I kind of was going up the ladder. I was working. I started out as, I guess, a helper and then to an apprentice and then to what you call a journeyman, which is, you have a license as not a contractor, but as a electrician, you're certified. And from there, I got a chance to be a foreman and I got a chance to be a superintendent. And from there, I just decided that I wanted to utilize my license full time. Actually, the way that happened was I had an injury. I had an injury that didn't go so well. I had a brain surgery, actually, that didn't go so well. And I spent a little bit of time in the hospital. And when I came out, job didn't have any work for me. They don't have any work. They don't have any work. So I decided to pursue my contractor full time. I was already doing it part time after work on the weekends and stuff anyway. So I just pursued it full time as I was healing. And really, even if I didn't want to, I really had no option because my daughter was first year of college. She was getting ready to go to college. So, the bills don't stop coming because you slowed down or because you had to change your career or whatever. So I did what I had to do, help support my family. And eventually they called me and said, we have work for you. And I just let them know that I'm okay. And that was 1998. And now this is 2025. And I've been a contractor full time ever since then.
Well, so you were a degreed engineer, electrical engineer, and you went into contracting. Wow. You know what? I don't hear that one very often. That's so let me ask you this. What was the trigger for you? What was the watershed moment when you said, hey, I being an engineer is, I went to school for it, but what was sort of the
sitting in an office all the time, sitting in an office quite a bit, doing a lot of abstract thinking. And when I say abstract, a lot of things was based on not me actually going out in the field, but more so me working like I am now on a computer, but a little different, not talking to people, So I didn't really like it. I like to be hands-on, and I must admit the one thing that I really enjoy about contracting is you're not at the same place forever.
Right.
When I say forever, you're constantly moving around.
Yeah.
Um, first as a person who, of course, was doing the work, but now me as a person going to get more work, I'm constantly talking to people, meeting people, going to new places, seeing new things. And honestly, one thing I can say, I've been doing it now for roughly 40, a little over 40, since 1982, off and on, but full time since 1998. And I would say it wouldn't be that long if I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I can tell you by now, if I had just stayed with the engineering and engineering only, the first chance that it was time for retirement and I could get a nice piece of change, I would have retired. What I'm doing now, I don't see a forecast of retiring. I have sort of an exit strategy, but I don't see it until it's time for me to move on. That's the way I feel right now because I feel so good about it. You don't know
Yeah.
what life brings you later on, but I know you should always choose, or if you in, or if you can, or if you're in a position, something that you enjoy doing. And at time comes, whatever you're doing, the money will come. But if you don't enjoy it, it's a miserable life.
Yeah. So, how big of a shop are you running now? Like, are you
Our
guys
shop, we have six
okay?
people right now. So what we do basically, we fluctuate between 6 and like 20. So right
Mhm.
now, end of the year, probably up the holidays, and then the fiscal year for most people starts like January, February. So we'll probably pick up then. I would say consistently we carry 10, 12 people.
Mhm.
Um,
So
I would
that's
love to carry 60 people, but I have to add that
well,
word.
yeah, that's not what it's all cracked
What's
up to
that?
be. That's not all good. So
No,
sometimes,
I hear you. I haven't experienced though, but
yeah,
it's only
yeah,
one way to find out.
yeah. So I saw you were doing. So you mainly do commercial type work.
Yes, yes. So we do commercial, we do residential also, but our sweet spot, as you will call it, is retrofitting, which is one of them, which is changing older lighting systems into your
Mhm.
new LED, safer, better on eyes, more energy efficient lighting.
Mhm.
And the biggest sweet spot is changing over offices. So, for instance, you have, I don't know, you have a McDonald's that has had a lease for X amount of time, and all of a sudden they give up the lease, and Wendy's takes it over. We come in and make the lighting and receptacles and the cash registers and everything for Wendy's.
Mhm.
That's our sweet spot. We do that. We've done it for medical places. We did it for a biomedical lab. We did it for a doctor's office. We've done it for a place called Menchie's. So these are like our sweet spots right now. That's what we enjoy, those two things. But
Mhm.
we also do residential, of course. If you're a person and people and you're a contractor, you never get away from residential.
Oh,
They
right. Well,
always have something for you to do, and you don't mind doing it.
residential. Yeah, I remember when I was HVAC, right? We work with
Oh,
electricians all
okay.
the time, and I remember. I don't know why. I don't know what was going through my head. I started out in residential. We were changing out furnaces, and we got started with those home warranty companies back in the late '80s, early '90s,
Hmm.
and I just had it in my head. Oh, I want to do commercial. I want to do commercial, right?
Hmm.
And because it's bigger dollars and all that kind of stuff. But I hear you. One of the things about residential is you get paid. Yeah,
Immediately.
yeah. I mean, you go in there, you do a good job, and you get paid. Whereas on the commercial side, I had to retool my whole financial side of my business to do commercial work because you don't get paid right away.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I made the mistake. I was working with a lot of smaller general contractors. This is down in the Bay Area, and what I realized pretty quickly was how the game was played. These general contractors use the subs as little mini banks. So you go in there and you do a $100,000 job changing, in my case, changing out ductwork, tenant improvement stuff, and so you got $100,000 price tag on the job, and you're only making 30%, 40%, whatever it was at the time,
Right.
and you don't make anything until you get paid. And what a lot of these contractors would do is they would say, all right, well, I'll pay you on this job if you take that job, right? So after 3 or 4 jobs in, you're sitting on 60, 90 days of receivables, and man, it was tough. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, I have. So what I really do, I mean, you can only vet them, but so much. But what I like to do, if possible, is work directly for the owner. It
Yeah.
doesn't always work out. So there's some things now that I've been seasoned that I turned down because of that. Because just like you said, the GCs tend to move money around. Like you said, they're always ahead of you. They're
Yeah.
always ahead of you. Like you said,
Yeah.
you finish one job and they pay you for that job as a down payment on another job.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're always behind.
It's a shell game.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, so how are you guys union or non-union?
We are non-union.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah. How is it finding labor? So like, you get some nice restaurant remodels and, other TIs and some EV stations and stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get all this work done?
Yeah,
How is it
so
finding people?
that is a problem. That is a problem. But what happens normally for me lately, I wasn't doing it in the past, but now since the labor force has really tightened up, I broker deals with other contractors, so if I get more work than I can handle, maybe someone else is moving a little slower and vice versa for them. They get more work than they can handle times when I'm moving a little slower. Besides that, we go to a lot of the schools and stuff like that, but it's not hard to get a helper or a pre-apprentice or someone to teach, but I need to have someone to teach
Right.
them
Right.
because I can't be on every job teaching everybody. And really,
Yeah.
I can't be on any job teaching anybody at this point.
Yeah. So where are you located? You're in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania
Okay.
area, Delaware, Chester County,
Okay.
Montgomery County, but Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is the big place where everyone can kind of relate us to.
Yeah. So what do you, this is a question I get a lot, Eric. I
Mhm.
get a lot of this. So parents out there, they are having these conversations with their young adults getting, maybe they're in their sophomore, junior, senior year. And yeah, they've been putting money away in the college fund, for their kids, but there's some real serious discussions going on right now about, is college a good investment? And I'm not anti-college. I just want to make sure, don't the audience out there, don't start sending me emails that Mark is anti-college. I'm not. But what one of the questions that comes up is, can you make a living as an electrician? And I know the answer to that. You know the answer to that, but a lot of people don't. And so just out of curiosity, like you get a young adult in there, 20 something, and they say, Eric, I'm your person. I want to be an electrician. What do they start out at in non-union out where you're at?
So with me, they'll start off at 14, $15 an hour, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends. That's just on just say a residential job or a job that is a smaller job. But a lot of times we do prevailing wage work in Philadelphia area. Prevailing wage. Last time I did it was maybe 2 years ago, and the package for a mechanic was $108 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would just tell you, entry level person out of college in pretty much any field is not making that, even
Mm-hmm.
though they people push college in front of everything else. And then for a helper, actually, the way it was set up, they do it by percentages. They were making like $67 an hour because
Mm-hmm.
on say a prevailing wage. I'm sure you know, but just explain
Yeah.
to everybody else.
Yeah.
It's a certain wage that has to be paid. There's no such thing as an apprentice, a helper, anything like that. You're either laborer or you're mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Labor has to make a certain wage. But out in the field, so they start at 14, but it's always negotiable depending on your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, if it's going to be negotiable, then I will actually interview them and kind of see what they know because, we know the right question or I know the right questions to ask because everyone, especially with this AI now, can give you the right answers. But you
Right.
just got to know the question to answer that they can't use that for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they really have to show their experience and
Right.
expertise.
Yeah, it's I think you bring a really unique perspective, Eric, because I don't run into a lot of business owners that, small, medium-sized business owners out there that have actually turned out with a degree and then go into the trades. So,
I have a
well,
few of them that I work with. I would tell you, couple GCs, one also electrical contractor. He actually went through same apprenticeship program I went through, maybe a year before me.
Mhm.
So I think it's becoming more prevalent because you were taught that you got to go to college. And now I don't think they're teaching that. But what I will say is there's a gap where, so like you said, now you have parents telling people you don't necessarily have to go to college, or you can go to college, but think about something else. And when I was coming up, so they were kind of teaching that too, but say for about 20, 30 years, just go to college. And I don't know, for the past 10 years, everyone wants to be a YouTuber or wants to be, it's not even a YouTuber. They just think that it's easy to run a business.
Right.
And with the proper training, anything can be manageable. I don't know about easy,
Right.
but you just can't wake up and do it.
Yeah.
And people believe that that's the case.
Right.
So with that, there's a big gap between, say, people 60, 50, late 40s, and between, like you said, 20, early 20s, all the way down to teenagers. There's a gap, say, of 20 years where we didn't really have anyone trying to come into the labor force. And I'm seeing it now.
Yeah.
That's all I have. I have people who kind of want to retire, but it's nobody to replace them. And then you have people who need to learn, but it's nobody to teach them. And it's not nobody, but it's slim pickings.
It's tough. No, you're right. That's, I mean, you pick up a phone book and you call any contractor. I don't care if it's an electrician, HVAC, plumbing, whatever, a major trade. You call them up, and it's a tale as old as time. They want to grow their business. They have plenty of work most of the time. I mean, it's all typical. But when, push comes to shove, the problem is that there's just not enough hands and good brains to do the work. There isn't. And it's just it's an interesting time. It really is. And I think one of the things that's really putting stuff in focus for parents is, this artificial intelligence thing, you touched on. There's a big thing happening right now in the marketplace. Any degree job, electrical engineer, anything that requires doesn't require physical tasks. In other words, brain tasks, and even small motor skill tasks are going to be replaced first by robotics, AI driven robotics. I mean, it's just going to happen. So I think a lot of parents are finally waking up to see, look, my daughter or son want to go off to college and learn how to be, an author, how to write, how to engineer, how to do stuff like that. And they're like, wow, there's a good chance this is going to get replaced. But there was a big, I don't know, something was floating around on LinkedIn a while ago where it had a big building, nice building. And there was a big sign hanging over the side of the building that says, "Hey, GPT, can you finish this building?" Right?
Yeah, that is so funny.
Yeah,
that is so funny. I mean, that is really funny. People just believe that they're waking up. I mean, since I've been on both sides,
The problem is the value.
Go ahead.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
The problem I see is the value proposition for college has really diminished over the years, because if you look at the cost of living and you look at the cost of college, it's way out of sync. The cost of, if you look at the two graphs, the cost for college has dramatically risen faster than the amount of revenue families can make. And it's just a tough situation. And the other challenge that I've seen is, like you mentioned, prevailing wage or Davis-Bacon jobs, right? Yeah. So most people, like if you go on to Google and you say, well, how much does an electrician make? Right. The most widely disseminated information is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which has a terrible record for getting data right. And when they pull data, all of it's done by voluntary survey. So like if you get something in the mail that says, "Hey, Eric, can you fill this survey out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics?" You're gonna say, like what I used to say is, "I don't have time to do that."
Right.
And it's not mandatory, so it goes in the trash. So what the BLS has to do is take an educated guess at it. And in a lot of major markets, yours is probably one of them, what BLS is reporting as wages is sometimes 50% of reality, and they definitely never count into effect the prevailing wage jobs. Those aren't put in
Never,
there. They're not.
never in there, never
Yeah.
in there at all. Yeah. So, but I can tell you when I first went in, I didn't really know that. So that's why people need to talk to us and we can share with them what they
Mhm.
can do. I mean, if my recollection or my experience is I am so glad that I made that transition because I enjoy what I'm doing.
And you're going to live
I
longer for
thought,
that.
what's that?
You'll live longer because of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that I would enjoy engineering because everyone steered me that way because of my grades in school and all. But realistically, I see applying the same concepts in what I'm doing now.
Mhm. Yeah.
But of course, people see a hard hat and a tool pouch and a lunchbox, and they think that the aptitude is not there. And I say, oh, it's total opposite. You have to have
Right.
the aptitude and the physical ability on top of that. And you got to be able to be doing it all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, I want to ask you this. I ask all my guests this that are contractors. Do you
hmm
think somebody who starts off as an apprentice electrician, I don't care if it's union, non-union, whatever, is it possible working in the trades to become a millionaire?
Just working.
Yeah, we're working as a I mean, I'm talking, making smart decisions, but is it possible nowadays?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. But what I would say is what happens a lot of times in the trades, I've seen it for a while now, at toolbox time and at lunchtime and when we go over the job and stuff like that, they're always talking to somebody. So some of the veteran people, a lot of times, they invest. You'd be surprised some of that money because the money that I talked about, of course, a lot of it is dues, but a whole lot of it goes in your pocket. So I
Mhm.
mean, unless you have some kind of habit or you have 10 kids, you can save some money. So you have a lot of talks with some older or veterans, not just electricians, but across the board about things like investing. The biggest investment that they do a lot of times is real estate because they can fix it up and either hold on to it or sell it or whatever. Most
Mhm.
of the people in the trades, yes. So my short answer is yes, they can become a millionaire because they make enough money and they have enough smarts with being able to work with their hands and contacts of
Mhm.
every single trade where they can invest in things such as real estate to do something with that money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a question that I get because a lot of Mike Rowe talks about this all the time. The trades are sort of
Mhm,
if everything else fails, you can always go out and be a plumber, or I mean,
mhm.
that's the conversation. But I think it's coming around. I think it's coming around. There's some really good cheerleaders out there, guys like you, willing to talk about what's going on in the trades. And so, before we wrap up here, what are some
Mhm.
of your biggest challenges, Eric, about running a business? So let's say, speaking to the skilled trade pros out there that are, they've been at it for a couple of years and they're thinking about maybe going out and starting their own business. Like what are some of the lessons that you learned about first starting in business, and that they can maybe take something away with that learn something?
So what we touched on two of them for a good portion of our talk. The one would be working with the GCs who move the money around. Of course, you want to work with some GCs, but you just want to make sure you diversify because you're waiting on that money. And if you're waiting on that money, period, and you're just starting, where are you going to get the money to wait on it from? That's definitely one thing. So if you can, you want to try to deal directly with the owner. And the other thing that we talked about was the human resources. It's difficult to find, I don't want to say quality, but it's difficult to find human resources that can benefit your company.
Hmm.
Um,
Bringing the right people.
that's right. Because
Mhm.
you always will have someone. I always laugh when after a while I get a chance to see someone's habits and all that. And when I talk to the person who referred them, I'll say, well, if you had this guy just sitting in your basement and you wanted him to get out of the basement, you shouldn't have brought him to me. You should have sent him to McDonald's or Pep Boys or something, and not because of the type of job, but because that's a much bigger company who he or she may have been able to hide at. You can't
Right.
hide when it's 6 of us.
That's
You
true.
know what I mean by
I do.
hide.
I do. Yeah, it's tough to hide when a part of a small crew and everybody knows
Exactly.
each other, and everybody's, And the smaller the crew, if somebody's not holding their weight, everybody
It
else pays the
shows.
price
It
for it, right?
shows. You say end of the week, I don't have any money. Everybody's got money but me. What's wrong?
Yes.